second good morning to all of you. Great to have everyone, and we will call the meeting to order. And we have with us Pastor David Beeson from the Wichita Second Foursquare Church that will provide an invocation. And following that, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance, and we invite you to join us for both of those. Pastor Beeson, good to have you.
Father, we come before you today, and we are thankful for this city that we all call home, Father. We are thankful for her rich history, her prosperous presence, and exciting future, Father. Lord, as I stand here, I pray for our first responders today, Father, who are out there 24 hours a day making sure that we're safe and protected and taken care of, Father. And I just pray the safety of all those departments, Father. Today, I pray wisdom for the mayor and the city council, Father, as they go about the agenda of today's business, Father. And again, we thank you for your presence. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor Beeson. The first item is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on October 2nd, 2018. Any changes or corrections? Seeing none, I move that we approve the October 2nd minutes.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. And we have a couple of proclamations this morning. We have a proclamation this morning for the Harry Hines Memorial Hospice Day. Father Tom Welk and Jerry Kirsch and Lindsay Chow, Sheila Shaw, Carrie Kazitz, and Kathy Mendenhall. I had to butcher one of those names. Come on up. Good morning. Good to have you this morning. Yeah, as soon as I read this, we'll give you the podium for 20 or 30 minutes.
I go 45.
Proclamation from the City of Wichita. Whereas many generous volunteers from the medical field and various other disciplines come together in the early 80s to organize the first hospice program in the Wichita metropolitan area. And whereas many individuals have generously given their time and talent to serve on the board of directors and have expertly guided this hospice program in continuing to build and grow. And whereas this community has provided countless ways of supporting Harry Hines Memorial Hospice since its beginning. And whereas on the day of October 23rd, 1983, Harry Hines Memorial Hospice took its first patient under care and now has served over 50,000 patients. And whereas the dedicated volunteer and professional staff of Harry Hines Memorial Hospice have faithfully served the terminally ill and their loved ones for the past 35 years, now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Jeff Longwell, the mayor of the city of Wichita, Kansas, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim October 23rd, 2018 as Harry Hines Memorial Hospice Day in the city of Wichita, and encourage all citizens to remember the contributions Harry Hines Memorial Hospice has made to the terminally ill and their loved ones in this community. And I'll present this to you and let you have the podium.
Real quick introduction. You already mentioned Jerry Kirsch, our president, Sheila Shaw, Director of Volunteers and Development, and Lindsay Cahoy, who's Director of Patient and Family Care. And Kathy, I'll make mention of Kathy Bensing Mendenhall a bit later. Again, thank you for this proclamation. Those of us who were involved in those early days, I don't think any of us dreamed we would be at this point 35 years later, that we've been able to serve that many people in the community. And it is really credit to the community that we were able to do that. So again, thank you, Mayor, for acknowledging this, and I want to say a thank you to the community for the tremendous support. Also want to mention that the first patient we took under care, Kathy, if we would come forward for a minute. Gene Bensing was a young man of 34 with a brain tumor. So in 1983, we were just barely getting going. We got a call. Kathy heard about us getting a program underway, and she was very kind, and I'll say that very honestly and deliberately, that the family, the Bensing family, opened up their hearts, their lives, and their home to us. We learned a lot from having under care, so a public acknowledgement of that also. So thank you to the community, and thank you to the many families. We are honored and privileged to be able to serve in this community. We are honored and privileged to be able to enter the lives of people at a very critical part of their life's journey. And we promise also and commit ourselves to you as community that we will continue to have two things I call hallmarks to guide us in our work. The hallmarks being quality of care for our patients and families will always be paramount. And we're always going to do that with integrity. And I promise and make a commitment to you as community that those two things will indeed guide us. Thank you again for your support.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Our next proclamation is for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and if we could have the Domestic Violence Coordinated Community Response Team, including Stepstone Harbor House and the Wichita Family Crisis Center. Any of them here? There we are. You're representing all.
Yes, we are.
All right. The proclamation reads, whereas domestic violence and sexual assault result in widespread victimization of adults, children, and families regardless of age, race, gender, or socioeconomic status. And whereas domestic violence is the intentional patterned use of physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, or economic coercion and abuse that violates an individual's dignity, security, and psychological and physical well-being. And whereas in 2018, 5 homicides in the city of Wichita resulted from domestic violence, and whereas over 8,000 cases of domestic violence are reported each year in the city of Wichita, and the criminal justice system dedicates tremendous resources to arrest and prosecute perpetrators. And whereas the city of Wichita and the Wichita-Sedgwick County Domestic Violence Sexual Assault Coalition are committed to taking a firm position against domestic violence and remain focused on ensuring that victims and their children are safe and abusers are held accountable for their crimes. And whereas Domestic Violence Awareness Month provides an important opportunity for the citizens to show support for the numerous organizations and individuals who are providing advocacy efforts, services, and assistance to domestic violence victims. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Jeff Longwell, Mayor of the city, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim October of 2018 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and encourage fellow council members together with the Wichita-Sedgwick County Domestic Violence Sexual Assault Coalition to promote healthy, nonviolent relationships for all. And let you share.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you to our mayor and members of the city council. We appreciate the city's recognition of this proclamation and the time that we are being given here today to share how we are working together in this community and to remind them of the support and advocacy resources that are available to survivors. Represented here today is Yoon Kimball with Stepstone and myself, Carrie McGregor, with Catholic Charities Harbor House. As a coordinated and community response team, we are committed to this work and strive to educate the community in regards to the partnerships that are diligently working to address the needs of survivors. The team is comprised of the following specialties: law enforcement, shelter and advocacy, medical, and court systems, who are all working together with a common goal to increase safety and reduce violence in our community. We would like to thank you again on behalf of all those impacted by violence for declaring October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, you want to call the next item?
Consent agenda items 1 through 17.
Any items need to be pulled for discussion or clarification on consent agenda items 1 through 17? Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to pull item number 8.
Okay.
The naming of Robert Bob Thurman Field.
Any others? Seeing no others, I move that we approve consent agenda items 1 through 17 with the exception of item number 8.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Consent agenda item number 8. Councilmember Johnson, we'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to acknowledge some family members of Mr. Thurman here in the audience today. We have Margaret Johnson, Van Johnson, and Robert Jr. Wanted to acknowledge them and also just highlight why this was significant. Mr. Thurman actually played in the Negro Leagues and Major League Baseball, and he passed away here in 1998 here in Wichita at the age of 81, and contributed significantly there, and is actually in the Hall of Fame and Puerto Rico Baseball Hall of Fame. So just wanted to acknowledge that, and I think that's pretty cool for the park, and again, what's going on with League 42 at McAdams.
And nice for that next generation of young people to see someone in their sport. So you want to make the motion?
Yeah. I move that we approve the naming of Robert Bob Thurman Field at McAdams.
And I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Tobacco permit fee increases.
This item is for a proposed increase to the cost of a City of Wichita tobacco permit. The tobacco permit fees are established in City Ordinance Chapter 7.60. Purpose of this ordinance is to prevent youth access from cigarettes and tobacco products. Program activities include permitting retailers and using youth volunteers to assist us with conducting tobacco compliance checks. We last raised the permit fees in 2014. They were passed in 2013, went into effect January 1st, 2014. So this proposed fee would go into effect January 1st, 2019. This was a 5-year permit increase. So this table shows our current revenue gap and where we're projected to be next year without this fee increase. Next year, we're looking at a revenue gap of $20,000. This program pays for one full-time position, salary and benefits, as well as that person's vehicle, fuel, and computer expenses. 29% fee increase would be needed to break even next year. We are proposing a 30% fee increase. This would raise tobacco permit fees to $260 from $200. This would bring in $21,000 in new revenue, and our recommendation to you is to approve the fee increase and place the ordinance on the first reading.
Any questions?
Yes.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you. So it shows that we've been lagging the last 3 years. This increase will take care of us for next year, but what about future years? Will we be seeing increases beyond that?
Most likely, yes.
Okay.
Projected to be behind again in 2020. We do need regular updates to keep this on par with expenses.
Thank you.
And Councilmember Blueball.
Can you tell me again what's causing the fees to increase? What's causing the
It's
the
largely
staff to what's causing that?
largely salary increases. So salary gets a increase every year, and just raising expenses, increasing expenses, fuel charges and things like that, is causing the revenue gap. So this hasn't been adjusted for 5 years. 5 years worth of getting behind.
Okay. Councilmember Meisner.
Thank you, Mayor. Tell me, how is this monitored? I mean,
How is it
if
monitored?
a retail Quick Trip, whatever's,
The tobacco compliance checks. You're asking how we do those?
right?
So we have volunteers that are under 18 years old. They'll go in with the full-time employee that this program pays for. They will undercover ask for purchase of cigarettes. If the clerk sells it to them, they get a ticket. If they sell it to them and they also neglect to check their ID, they get 2 separate citations. So
And then just, is there, so annually, they pay this new fee. How do we know if somebody's hadn't paid it?
licenses are issued by the licensing office, and then once a year when those renewals come due, we audit everybody that's
So
paid
you-
and hasn't paid.
Spot audit or whatever?
Yes, sir.
And there still are cigarette vending machines today?
Very few.
I was gonna say. Okay, thank you.
Anyone in the audience like to address the council on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. If there's no other discussion, I would move the city council place the ordinance on first reading and authorize the necessary signatures.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item.
Community events, George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic Concert at the Wave.
Mayor, Council, John D'Angelo, Arts and Cultural Services. What's before you is the concert at the Wave and the extension of the hours. Code requires a resolution to authorize the extension of the community event hours. Promoter has requested an extension of the event hours to 2 a.m. For each of the days of this concert. You can see the location. I think you're all familiar with it, but it needs to have a resolution to allow the extension to 2 a.m.
Just for the Funkadelic?
Just for the Funkadelic.
All right.
And George Clinton.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll go out to the public. Anyone like to address the council on George Clinton and the Funkadelics? Robert, you sure you don't want to? All right. Seeing no one as funky as Robert, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. And was this in Cindy's?
I just have a question. So on our agenda report, I think there's only one day, and it asks for an extension till midnight. So can you tell me what 2 days it is, or maybe I'm reading the agenda report wrong? It says October the 11th.
I think the count, again, I think it is for only the one day. I apologize. For October 11th is when it is.
And it is till 2 a.m.
To
That is
2
what they're
a.m.
asking for?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
No, until midnight.
You ready to make a motion?
Yes, I will. I'd like to move that the city council adopt the resolution and authorize all necessary signatures.
Second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item.
Approval of Horizontus mural project.
Again, Mayor, Council, John D'Angelo. What's before you is the Horizontus mural project, which has received a $125,000 grant from the Knight Foundation for the completion of the murals that it has done in the neighborhood of the north and northeast neighborhood. 13 murals to date have been completed on private property. Extensive community input for the mural designs and development was taken for the 13th Street location. They met with several of the area neighborhoods as well as engaged them in part of the input for the images that you see. Approval from the Historical Midtown Association has been received, as well as Senator Lynn Rogers, and Relief of Idias Godot has also sent letters of support. Artist selection was an open call for entries. assistance in the painting of these murals will be by community members and art students, interns, and high school students. Images that you see here are some of the images that are being proposed at the location. Again, these are on the 13th Street Railroad, and there will be a wall that will not have a mural on it, and that's later been proposed that perhaps the Historical Midtown Association may want to look at something to put on that wall. And again, this is similar to the 1st and 2nd Street underpasses that were recently painted. I'm happy to stand for questions.
Questions? None at this time. We'll go out to the audience. Anyone like to address the council on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll bring the discussion back to the bench. Discussion? No discussion? Councilmember Claycomb?
Yes. I just wanted to thank the artists for the work that they've done to bring this project together. It's a really nice addition to that neighborhood, and I was at the first Design Council meeting where they talked about this, and they asked that the artists take that out to the neighborhood, to the historic Midtown Citizens Association, and they had a very healthy discussion at that meeting that I attended, and decided that they would write a letter of support. They found this art to be a nice addition to the city. I think that I also want to mention that I think that the art is historical in terms of the type of art that it is, and talks about our history. So I think it's a nice piece of, all 5 are nice pieces of art to add to our collection. So thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. John, can you bring up slide 5 again, please? Okay, thank you. I'm just concerned with the second mural, that we may be setting a precedent that we don't want to go down, because I don't think we have a policy right now as it relates to verbiage in murals. Most of our murals have all been figures and depictions, but no statements or no language, correct? I've not seen any.
Yes, you're correct. There are some artwork like on the water at Hermit Hill that is a poem. And again, that was approved by several councils ago. But we do have some artwork within the system that does have some verbiage.
Well, obviously, I believe that we should have justice for all citizens. But what I'm worried about is what's next, and where do we draw the line, and what might be coming to us in the future that's maybe crossing, social acceptance or areas that we don't want to touch on. I don't think we have a policy along that, but by allowing this, are we saying that we tolerate injustice locally, that this is necessary, that we have to put this up? I'm just, and I understand artist's intent, and all art is subject to interpretation, but it just feels like we're stepping out in an area that, as a public government, we don't need to be doing. So,
we also had heard your request, as well as Councilmember Claycomb's request, to look at a policy, and we'll be taking a draft back to the Design Council to bring forward to you about a public policy on. There are a couple out there. We've also been in consultation with the legal department on that issue as well.
okay.
And Vice Mayor, I've heard from a number of people also that are concerned that we don't want to get into making political statements, but after multiple conversations with some staff people and with Councilmember Claycomb, they have assured me through dialogue with the artist that this is not the intention of the artist to make a political statement of any kind. And I don't know if Councilmember Claycomb would like to share that conversation.
Yes. Yes. So, and this also came up at the Historic Midtown Neighborhood Association, and they talked about this not being a political statement. It doesn't name a politician or a party. Just talks the general need for supporting marginalized groups. And I think that after I looked at it for over time and then have heard the artist and spoken with the artist, that this is, again, a historical piece. It talks about immigration, and so I think all of us had ancestors that immigrated here, so it's past, present, and future. I don't view it as a political statement. Again, after talking with the artist, it just really brings a small bit of cultural and racial equity to the city by sharing stories and depicting people that have immigrated.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I also have had a few conversations with Armando Menjarez, who's actually here today, about this piece, and I echo what Councilmember Claycomb said. It's just an artistic piece. It's not a political statement, and I look at it more as we've got pieces around the city like the DACA Memorial. It's just recognizing history. We are actually a city of immigrants. People immigrated here as well, so to me it's just a historical piece and something that the community could appreciate.
So it probably comes closer than any other piece we've ever had, but it comes right up to the line. And again, after conversations, I'm not sure that its intent was. I think art should inspire different views, and I'm good with art itself inspiring. I think we also need a policy where if we're going to start doing some type of inscription, that we need to be very careful about making any kind of political statement. I mean, this one, I've been reassured, doesn't. I suppose some of it is in the way you view it. I shared with Councilmember Claycomb that I would have preferred that if we're going to put some kind of inscription, it should have read Nosotros Amor Nuestro Ciudad, but I didn't get my preference. My Spanish is excellent. Don't shake your head at me. We love our city, for those that don't speak Spanish. And so this is certainly one that is as close to coming up to that gray area as possible, and we will need to, I think this has probably prompted us to look at that policy so that we're not making political statements, because I can tell you I have a far different political views on a variety of issues and that's fine. I think we all have different political views, and I think that's at the end of the day a beautiful thing, because we don't want 7 people up here that think exactly like me. We would have problems. But I'm going to support this today because I've been reassured of the intent, but I still think we need to come back and address the issue of inscriptions that could be political in nature. Councilmember Claycomb, did you have something else?
Nope. I'm ready to make a motion if no one else has comments.
We have approval actually of murals in your district and Councilmember Johnson's district, so I'll let you two fight it out.
Thank you. I would move that City Council approve the creation and installation of 5 painted murals at the intersection of 13th Street and North Santa Fe Street.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 6-1. Madam Clerk, next item.
Approval of Evergreen Mural Project.
Again, Mayor John D'Angelo, Arts and Cultural Services. What's before you here is, again, the Evergreen Mural Project. It's come out of the Horizontis project as far as the artists that became available to look at a location on the Evergreen Recreation Center. During the discussion at the Design Council, there was a lot of discussion about the proposed site. They had originally talked about replacing a mural, and we went through the de-essentiating process of how we would take a piece of art and replace it. It was decided by the Design Council to encourage the artist to look at a different location or to look at painting it on mural cloth. The artists have agreed to paint it on the east side of Evergreen Recreation Center. The design is inspired about the Azteca art, which is some discussion about possible future splash pads that might be created there. This is an image. It's important also to note that Grace Point Church and Sherman-Williams are two of the donors that are donating product to make sure that this does happen, as well as other individuals that are part of this project. I'm happy to stand for questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll go out to the audience. Anyone like to address the council on this agenda issue? Seeing none, we'll bring the discussion back to the bench. And again, we'll turn it over to Councilmember Claycomb.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just want to say how excited I am about this piece. We had 2 artists from Columbia contact the Horizontes project to ask if they could come to Wichita and paint a mural, and because they had a week of time where they weren't occupied, and so I think we should be thrilled that they're coming. I'd ask Armando, is there anything else you want to add to this? Armando is from the Horizontes project, and he's the one that has arranged this, so maybe you can tell us just a little bit more about this exciting project.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Yes, we were contacted by Natalia Gallego-Gleo, who is the artist commissioned to paint the mural on the grain elevator, which is in full production right now. Well, not today, because it's raining. And she's part of a collective of artists from Colombia, from Cali, Colombia, who are doing a mural tour in the US. And they had a lapse a week between Albuquerque and LA, and they reached out to see if they could do a mural in Wichita. So I immediately reached out to Evergreen as well as Brendan Johnson to talk about different locations in both districts that they could house a mural. They decided to go with the wall at Evergreen, and it's a really high quality piece of artwork that we're getting. Harvest Arts agreed to sponsor their travel here and their stay through this partnership at Hotel at Waterwalk. There's been different local sponsors that are paying for supplies, and they really are doing this for free. They're not getting an artist fee. We're just getting all their expenses paid for. So we're really lucky and fortunate to have them here. And yeah, so we appreciate that we're given this opportunity too.
Thank you, Armando. Thank you, Armando. So, ready for a motion?
Yep.
Right. I would move to approve the creation of the painted mural for the Evergreen Recreation Center.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Zone 2018-24, city zone change from single-family residential to two-family residential on property generally located west of 135th Street West and north of U.S. Highway 54-400.
Dale Miller, planning staff. This is a case you heard back on September 4th and voted as a council to return to the District Advisory Board for reconsideration. That has been done. And since you've heard it before, I'll be very brief and rely on your questions. But the application area is the one shown on the map with the arrow pointing to it, north of Kellogg and west of 135th. It's currently vacant. This is the proposed site plan. The western 100 feet of the application area is proposed to remain zone single family and would be developed with single family homes. The rest of the U shape that's to the east and connects to 135th would be developed with duplexes, and so they're asking for TF3 duplex zoning. There was a 52% protest, and as I indicated, it did go back to the District Advisory Board, and I'll turn it over to Councilmember Blubaugh to explain the motion there at the Advisory Board.
Thank you very much. Whenever it came back to the District Advisory Board, the developer came in, or his agent came in and showed us that there were already several single-family or SF5 properties within Auburn Hills. This is not within Auburn Hills. There is a buffer, as Dale said, there is a buffer between the homes that are going to be single-family homes between Auburn Hills and there, and the SF5 has commercial to the east side, and it has a large acreage property to the north. It was voted for approval 9-1 by my district advisory board, and the only reason one person voted against is because they did not want a protective overlay. I would like to make a motion for a protective overlay to be added to this that states that there will be an HOA within this organization, because what I was hearing from the neighborhood is they were concerned that these twin homes could be rented out, and they wanted to ensure someone was going to hold all the property owners accountable. So I thought adding a protective overlay that adds an HOA would be the way to cure that.
And just as a reminder, this is not a public hearing. The public hearing has already been held at both the MAPC meeting and the District Advisory Board meeting, so we will keep discussion at the bench today. And Councilmember Bluebell, I too have heard some concerns from your neighborhood, mostly regarding properties butting right up to those single-family homes, and so understanding that we are not going to rezone the properties that butt up to the current neighborhood will help, I think, with that issue. And I also like the fact that you want to put in a protective overlay and ensure that that property will be well managed, and I know you have some specifics on that you'll share as you read your motion, and that will probably get me to the point of being able to support this. Initially, I was not going to support it, but with the buffer and the protective overlay, I think it helps keep the neighborhood and ensures that their values will continue to, in this case, I think probably increase.
I agree, Mayor, and that's what I've seen happen in other additions as well, where they want to ensure that there is an accountability, that they're taking care of the whole neighborhood.
And just for the record, I suppose it's nice that you have been in this industry of residential and commercial property for something like the last 72 years. Something like that.
Getting
Vice
close to
Mayor?
20 years.
Thank you. Dale, on the current slide, Block A, those 3 lots, do those stay as single-family residential SF5?
Yes,
Okay, so we're not changing those.
correct.
Okay. And the property to the north, that's SF5 too, correct?
Oh,
I think it's slide 3. Okay.
yes, the white areas are all zoned SF5. The pink is GC, general commercial.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns? Councilmember Bluebell, are you prepared then to go ahead and make the motion?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make the motion as the recommended action per staff, and I would like to add the addition to add a protective overlay to all the properties that have the SF3 two-family residential to have a common HOA.
Second?
For the record, he means SF5.
And TF3.
TF3, sorry.
All right.
Thank you, Dale.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item.
Resolution authorizing donation to USS Wichita Commissioning Committee.
Good morning, Mayor, members of council. You have before you today a discussion of the commissioning ceremony for the USS Wichita. The USS Wichita is a new ship in the Navy's Freedom class of warships. It was completed in August and will be commissioned in January of this next year. As you know, it's tradition to have memorabilia and other items to commemorate the namesake city for a ship that is named after a community, and that will be the case with the USS Wichita. There is a commissioning ceremony that's planned for January. There's a private fundraising campaign that is going on right now, and there's been a request to have assistance from the city and the county with that commissioning ceremony, but also to fund other crucial ship services, and if there are funds available to provide assistance to families of the crew, which I think is a very appropriate benefit for the crew members in recognition of the connection with the city. Picture of the ship itself. The recommendation is for the council to authorize $25,000 from its budget for the commissioning committee's use. I'd be glad to answer any questions regarding this item.
Questions? Seeing none, we'll go out to the public. Anyone like to address the council on this agenda item? If you'll come to the podium and give your name and address.
Andrew Spackman, 201 South Oak. We can't afford to reopen or have a new pool for children in our community, but we can afford to give money to the federal government that already has massive amounts of money. We're going to contribute to the warmongering around the world from our city tax dollars now, not just our federal tax dollars. I find this inappropriate and disgusting. I would appreciate it if you would not approve this, or at least postpone a vote until the community can hear about this more. I just heard about this 30 minutes ago in the paper. And I think the people of Wichita would not appreciate you spending this money on a warship when we can't afford pools or recreation areas for children in need in our own community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Seeing no other speakers, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. And I will simply share that I do not agree with our speaker that we are adding to the warmongering. I will tell you this, that our Navy was instituted to keep shipping lanes for the entire world to be safe from bad people. And oftentimes our Navy are the ones that respond to catastrophic events all over the world and provide assistance, and cases in the past where they've provided needed hospitalization and medical assistance all around the world at catastrophic events. So I would not categorize our Navy ships as warmongering. In fact, I think adopting this ship and carrying the USS Wichita, I think most Wichitans would be proud to have a ship, and we will adopt the crew, and once we adopt the crew, they are our family forever until that ship is decommissioned. And so I think it's very appropriate for us not only to adopt the crew, but provide support and perpetuity, that they will have someone back here in the States that's constantly supporting them and thinking of them and their families and for their dedication to their country. And so I would move that we adopt the resolution authorizing the donation of $25,000 to the USS Wichita Commissioning Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Council member appointments and comments.
Any appointments? I've got a couple of appointments, but we'll get to them in a minute. Councilmember Meissner?
I don't have appointments, but I'll have some comments.
Sure.
I'll wait till after the appointments.
No, you can share them now.
Well, I just wanted to say that I was honored to, I attended 2 events that were historical over the weekend. The Lieutenant Bleckley 100-year anniversary to the day, basically, of World War I. Lieutenant Bleckley he passed away in action and won the Medal of Honor, and it was quite an impressive array of speakers and represented the city there, and they are presenting a painting to the city, and I'll coordinate later, but I believe that it'd be well worth you, the mayor, and the rest of the council that we present that here in front of us so the public and the council can understand the largeness of what he was and what they did. And then the second event I went to Sunday night at New Spring Church was the 70th anniversary of the modern Israel state, and the Consul General Katz from Israel was there and was able to be a part of that ceremony, and New Spring Church really did a welcoming job of embracing, as well as a couple of rabbis, the Christian and Jewish state, and they kind of went through that history, and it was another very impressive event to be at. So I want to congratulate the 100-year anniversary and a 70-year anniversary, and so thank you.
Thank you. I know it was a busy weekend for many of us. I had spent my entire weekend up in Topeka at the annual League of Kansas Municipalities conference, and wound down my year as president of the league. And the league is one that has taken up a number of causes that has helped our city to be more successful and guiding our state legislature on policy issues in a wide variety of areas that help as much as they can both maintain a better environment for cities to operate in, and had a number of opportunities for some really good sessions, and had a really good opening session, and so it was a good conference. I enjoyed it. And hopefully you all will get a chance or opportunity as you make your way through your terms to attend some of those types of conferences and events, because I believe they're very worthwhile. Councilmember Clendenin was able to make it up there for my historic closing speech.
Cheeseburgers and all.
I do have a couple of appointments. I need to appoint Yumi Suzuki to the Sedgwick County Juvenile Corrections Advisory Board Team Justice, and appoint Taylor Zimbelman to the Board of Code Standards and Appeals. He will be the citizen at large and be replacing Raymond Stubblefield, who had to move. So I move that we approve those appointments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the appointments. Any discussion? Cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. Madam Clerk, next item.
Adjournment.
All right, we can do that. Motion, I move that we adjourn today's council meeting.
Second.
Reluctant second, because we haven't heard enough from our city manager today. We can keep this open. We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Cast your vote. Motion barely passes 7-0.
If we all voted no, what would happen?
We would stay here until we get a...
Until we get a vote.
But you can't have the same motion twice, right?
They'd have to revise it.
All right, enjoy your day.
So yeah, that was a case of getting it turned around. It was 50 minutes. 13